No, I was, but then I didn't think I was because I didn't bring them over.
Oh, okay.
I didn't bring them over. But since you have them, you can help me tease.
Oh, I gotta get them. Gotta get them.
Can
Yep.
help me tease. Yeah, because
Sure.
that has definitely been my weekend review. All of that.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Went to well, I can wait. I can talk about that. I can talk about that a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
We have we got good stuff coming up, good things coming up. You got an exciting trip. You gonna talk about your trip?
Go, sure.
Prep for your trip. I think that would
Yep.
be good. Um, Victoria, look, I'm telling everybody what they're gonna talk about in their.
That's fine.
Okay, Victoria. Yeah, tell Victoria what she's going to talk about.
Victoria, you're gonna talk about the amazing Linnea. That's what you're gonna talk about.
Oh, okay. Yes, I can talk about her.
Talk about
And I can talk about my trip to Indiana.
Okay.
That's right. See, look how well that turned out.
See, that's what we need. Next time, you just need to tell us what to talk about.
Like I can remember my own week, which does not often work out too well at all. But we got an exciting return guest today, and I love her. I love her. The book that she brought to us before, and just listening to her talk is just a delight. So
Mhm.
I'm really glad about that. Glad about that and how that's
Yep.
all turning out and turning around. So let me see. I think that and we got some good stuff next week. We got returning
Mhm.
guests next week, and
Yes.
it's going to be exciting because we rarely have a chance to get into a particular topic and just
Yeah.
kind of flow with that. So that's going to be good. That's going
All
to be
right, everybody, it is that time.
all righty, Alan. Thank you so much, sir. We're ready to go.
All right, here we go. Talk to you later.
Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Authors Up. So glad that you have chosen to be with us this at 7 o'clock hour here on another Sunday evening. Always good to have you in the house. We got Angie popping in, our South Carolina lady. Good evening, Minister Angie Oliphant. Glad to have you in the house with us tonight. And if we have any countries that come in, Alan's going to put them up on the screen for us so that we can give them a warm welcome. And how are you ladies doing tonight? How you doing, Ruth?
I am doing great. How are you doing?
I'm well. I'm well. No need to complain. And Miss Victoria is showing us her finesse at getting how to
Look.
get how to get a set prepared in 10 minutes or less. That's her.
Look, technology is great until it's not. So,
But,
It's not. That's right. That's right. Victoria, we love you, lady. That's what's important. That's what's important. We love you. We love you. We love you. And we're going to we have had we always have interesting weeks, even when we come to this point in the program and think, oh gee, last week was boring or dull or whatever.
true.
never really true. Never really true. We just hide the good stuff. But tonight we're going to talk a little bit about what's been going on in our life and what's been going on with our week. And let's see, 1, 2, 3. I'll start. Ruth, you go next, and
Sure.
Victoria, you go next, and then you'll go into the bio after you do your part.
All right.
Talk about our guests for tonight. What was my week like? My week was busy. I realized that I only have 2 weeks before a reading for His glory, and the time has flown by. When I say it's gone by fast, I am not exaggerating at all. And I was very, very excited last week because my books came in. Yay. Miss Ruth has them there.
And it is so.
And Masters of the
Awesome.
Magic.
Yes. Congratulations, my darling.
Thank you. And I've put in a second order. I got that to Miss Ruth. So the second order for those books has gone in already. And I am thankful for that. I am grateful to be able to read from them for a very intimate little setting, a few people there, kind of what I call the prelude to the party that's coming in June. But it will be, I'm excited about it. It's been a while since I've done a reading like that. I used to do them a lot at bookstores and private gatherings in people's homes and things like that. So with COVID and things that have changed and all things that have happened, that opportunity has not presented itself for some time. So I'm excited about it. I'm happy with the way the books turned out. So we're putting the final touches on that afternoon. And looking forward to it. I'm going to be missing some people, Ruth. I'm going to be missing some people. But
I have a good excuse, though.
Understand. I do understand. But that my week has been full of that, full of counting and following up and getting tables and color schemes and all that stuff that it's really funny because you think you have everything laid out and then you get up one day and somebody asks you one question and you go, oh, I didn't put that down. I forgot to order that. Oh, I got to do that. Yeah. So no more floating through. I got about 3 days to solidify everything for the 29th. And I am well on my way to making that happen.
It's going to be a nice event.
Anybody who is on, just keep looking at Facebook because I will have the information out there again. And for anybody who has not yet put in a reservation, you might want to make that happen tomorrow because we're just about at capacity. So
awesome. That's a good thing.
Yeah, happy to do that. And I had an awesome publisher, Studio Griffin, the wonderful publisher, and Ms. Ruth over there. Ms. Ruth does an amazing job. I thank her so much for that. And Ruth, what was your week like other than trying to keep me calm and getting my stuff together? What were you up to?
Oh, my goodness. It was busy. So I have been, for my day job, I have been traveling to various parts of the state, North Carolina. So I have lived in North Carolina for 25 years. Basically, for me, North Carolina has, it's just basically Raleigh, the Triangle area, and then Wilmington. That's been it. I have been to Charlotte, to Winston-Salem, not often. So I got to see Jacksonville, got to go to the mountains for the first time. And I didn't even go all the way. I just was like at the foot. So I went to Marion and Hendersonville and so I spent like just the last 2 days. I got back yesterday evening. So 4-hour trip through the mountains. You got to make sure you set your music and everything because your hands are on the wheel and you're like snaking through the mountains and focus ahead, because if you even look to the side for a minute just to admire the view, you might get in the wrong lane or whatnot, or at least I almost did twice. So I made it back safely, obviously, though.
Yes,
So
yes.
next week I'll be in let's see, Guilford County, and as well as Cleveland. So I'll be back to the mountains a little bit, not quite there yet. Yeah, so I'll be traveling all the way through, and then at the end of the month, I literally come back from Gaston County, turn my vehicle in, and then go on a church trip. So I'll be gone for 3 days. We're going to uh, DC to go to the and this is a joint effort between our church and a synagogue, and we are going to be touring the Holocaust and the African American museums.
Oh, how nice.
Yes. I'm looking forward to it. It's been 4 years in the planning.
Uh-huh.
No, well, not quite. It's just we started planning right before COVID, and then COVID was like, nope, we're not doing that. And then we thought we were going to be able to do it after that, and COVID was still, nope, we're not doing that. And then we had to cancel because of some other reason. And now, so I'm one of the co-planners with another young lady from the synagogue, and we're just like, no, we're not actually going to like fully believe it until we're like on the way.
On the way.
So yeah, it's one of those things. So this month I'll probably get more mileage than I have probably in the last 25 years in North Carolina. Also I get to see a lot of the states. So
I can't wait until the week in review after your trip. Yeah, so you can tell us about that. 'Cause
yes,
that's really exciting.
it is. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I'm also looking forward to not going anywhere either. So because see, look, in the week after that, my daughter will be graduating college, and then
Whoa.
yeah, my baby is graduating college the week after that. So it might not be until about June that I just don't do anything. So
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations. I'm so happy.
yeah.
Yeah. So what's up with you, Miss Victoria, Queen Victoria? What's happening?
Well, I went to Indiana to see my mom for a week when it turned into 2 weeks. We had to make sure some things were in place for her. And I just wasn't comfortable after that first week. And so I extended the trip. And then the second week I got sick. And so when I got back home, I missed another week of work because I was sick.
Oh,
So I have, yesterday was the first day I went out the house really since I had been back the previous Friday.
Wow.
And so it was nice to be out. It was a beautiful day yesterday, spent some time with a little pampering session, and that was really good. So yesterday was a good day of joy. It felt good to be out and not feel like I had been feeling. So I'm a little tired though. I'm finding I'm a little fatigued, and that might be the fibromyalgia kind of kicking in after the sickness, I'm just kind of exhausted, but I feel good. I feel good. And I'm also happy because my oldest daughter has been practicing for her role in The Color Purple. And that is, she's in this production, and the opening is this coming weekend. It'll run 2 weekends in Burlington at the Gallery Players Theater. So I'm excited about that. She has the role of Nettie, and she's been back and forth to rehearsals, and it's about to get real intense this last week. So I just can't wait to see her in the role. It's again her first role since she graduated from college. So I'm excited for her, and I'm grateful, and to see her perform and pray that this will be the beginning for her for the career that she's looking for. So that's good.
That's awesome.
awesome.
All right, that is it. We can get into this wonderful author we got here with us. She is here with us for the second time, and we have with us tonight. We ready? We're ready?
We're
Yep.
ready.
All
go.
right. We have with us Elaine Kochanowicz, who is the author of Mom of Six Dies Laughing. And she's also the host of the Imagine Momcast podcast. She is a wife and mother of 6. Over the years, she ran a play group, was a homeschooling mom for 15 years, started a homeschool co-op that grew to 150 people, finished 4 triathlons, helped her husband with his growing Inc. 5000 business, wrote a few children's plays, and played a lot of Foursquare. Bless her heart. She's had her kids in public and private school as well, has become a veteran in feeding a large family, hates laundry, me too, and loves chocolate and adventures. These days, okay, these days she helps moms through her book, her podcast, speaking, her group challenges for moms, coaching, and of course, courses. Well, we're going to take a short break. And when we return, we are going to welcome again our delightful guest, Elaine Kochanowicz. We'll be right back.
Oh, we lost
We
Andrea
lost
for a
We
second.
lost
That's
Andrea.
okay. That is okay. So, welcome, Elaine. We are so happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Oh, she really is lost.
Oh, no.
Was she raptured?
Oh no, that's a bad sign.
Yeah, especially we're still here. So, don't say that. No, I think she just had to step away for a moment. So, we're going to
Understood.
continue. I'm sure she can hear us, and we're going to just welcome her back when she comes back. So,
Yeah.
all right, Elaine, we are just so happy to have you back. We
Yes.
enjoyed your book the first time. It was a privilege interviewing you. I have to say, I still love the cover. That is just great. There were many days I felt like that. So, yes, but we had the privilege of interviewing you last summer. Mom of Six Dies Laughing. We enjoyed speaking with you and just wanted to try something new and bring you back. See, there we
There's
go.
the cover.
Yes, that is an awesome cover, and I think, like I said, there were days that I felt like that, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. So
No, not at all.
no, so there was a lot in your book, and we just wanted to kind of continue the conversation, because this was a topic that I think we could all agree on was something that is really needed. Especially when you consider this subtitle, how to ditch overwhelm and mom guilt, feel more connected and empowered and have more fun. And I will tell you to this day, like I said, my youngest is graduating college. She's 22. She's going to be 23. So
That's
yay.
amazing.
But I can tell you that I still have mom guilt. And she was the last one to leave the house 4 years ago. So let's talk about that, because having fun is something I'm only learning to do now. So, let's we discussed your writing journey last time, and I just want you to give us a real quick recap on your book.
Yeah. So, kind of going off what you said, the reason I wrote it was because I wanted moms to feel like that they're totally understood. We've all been there. This is not weird. Like, this is everyone's reality, which is crazy to even, imagine that. What's crazy to me is like just listening to you guys now. I mean, you have older kids. I have older kids too. I have a 23-year-old, but I also have an 11-year-old. So I'm kind of still in the thick of things. But even with older kids, like, you guys have so much going on, and you're still parenting, right?
Yes.
And, just to let women know that this is normal. This is okay. And if there's, chaos is reigning a little bit in your house, then it'll all be all right.
Yep.
It may not calm down, but it'll be a new problem later. So you might as well just, go with the flow, accept that things aren't always going to go the way you want them to, and it's okay.
Yep. And that's, what, and I was looking at the reviews for your book, and I have to say this one was probably one of my favorite ones. They said, I would have loved to have a resource like this to tell me it was okay when I was in the throes of trying to get it right and feel good about my efforts. Elaine hit the target of mom guilt and so many emotions we feel as mothers, but even more helpful, she gives suggestions and has resources and scriptures to help you process those feelings and let go of the negativity that can be so debilitating. Every woman needs the assurance she is okay and she
Right.
is not alone.
Amen.
Yep. That's it. I mean, in a nutshell, that is, we are okay and we are not alone. And I think this
Amen.
book perfectly illustrates that. I
So,
wanted to,
go ahead. Go ahead,
no,
Ruth.
no. Go.
Well, in the introduction to the book, I give a little story about a Christmas that went down not at all like I hoped it would. And, I didn't have a lot of expectations for it because I knew better at that point.
Yep.
But I did want to, like, at least for Christmas Eve, like, go to church and read the Christmas story, and then
Mhm.
we actually always read the best Christmas pageant ever every year. So I wanted to get through at least a little bit of that. Well, when we were homeschooling and my older kids were younger, I read to them a lot.
Mhm.
Like every day I read to them. But when the two younger ones came up, they kind of rebelled against that. They didn't really want a whole lot to do with the being read to too much.
Yeah.
And so I felt guilty, like that mom guilt, like, oh, I spent all those times reading to my older kids and now my younger kids, I don't read to them at night, and I
Mhm.
don't they're not like reading themselves like the other ones did and all that kind of thing. And so I thought, well, at least Christmas Eve, I'm gonna read to them. And so we had actually gone actually my youngest daughter and then my youngest son, who were probably like, I don't know, 8 and 13 at the time, and we had gone to a bookstore like a few days before Christmas, and she and I were just browsing through, and my little one was browsing through, and we found this book. I don't know if you guys ever read the book Goodnight Moon to your kids.
I've heard of it. Yeah, I've heard of that one. Yeah.
Okay, well, it's kind of a classic, and of course, we had read it zillions of times. It's a short, quick, fun little book. Well, there was a parody of it. So in the parody, instead of just saying good night to the chair and good night to the bed and good night to the cat and all that, like in the regular book, it was good night to the iPad and good night to the cell phone and good night to the laptop. And of course, my younger daughter, sorry, but she was older than Mac at the time. We're just cracking up, right? Because she
Uh-huh.
knew the original book by heart. So we just thought it was so hilarious. And I turned to Mac, who was like 8, and I said, "Do you remember Goodnight Moon?" And he goes, "Nope." And I was just like, case closed. I've totally failed as a mother, like he
Yep.
doesn't even remember this book. And like the other kids knew it by heart.
Right.
And so I think that was when the reality hit of like, okay, the real reason I'm not reading to them is not because I'm too tired at night or whatever. It's because of all these stupid electronics.
Uh-huh.
And because I'm like older now and I don't monitor them enough like I used to, like I just don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not as like, have my thumb on them like I did with the older kids. But also there wasn't the cell phones and the iPads
Mhm.
and all that stuff
Mhm.
when the older ones were little.
Right.
And so I'm like just fighting against this constantly, right? And so Christmas Eve comes and I'm so like, okay, well, at least we'll read this. And so we start reading the Christmas story and I start reading it and I'm like, oh, by the way, I was determined to start with the story of Zachariah and Elizabeth because I'm like, if we're going to do this, we're going to really do this. And so, I'm reading about John and all these things, and I hardly get a word out. And my older son, or not my oldest son, but my oldest of the two younger ones, he was probably like, I don't know, 11 at the time. He, for some reason, like a few weeks before that, had decided like every minute had to be a YouTube video, and he
Oh,
was on
yeah.
camera. So it was just one snarky remark after another. And he started popping off, and I had it because I had been listening to it for weeks. And so I sent him to his room. And so the 8-year-old, because they're like buddies, because it's the two younger boys, he had like a nervous breakdown. And he
Oh.
was crying and he was like, I can't believe you sent him to his room on Christmas Eve. And I'm like, let's just sit down and read the Christmas story. And so he put his hoodie on over his face and he just laid on the couch, like face down with like a blanket over his whole body.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm just like, whatever, we are reading this.
We're
And
gonna
so
read
I
this Christmas
start
story.
reading, and all of a sudden I'm like my daughter who had gone with me to the bookstore could tell I was kind of losing it. And she was like, Mom, do you want me to read? And I'm like, yes, please. And so she starts reading it, and she gets about 15 words in, and we hear this sound coming from the couch. And we're like, what is that? And we realize it's the 8-year-old, and we're not even sure what he's doing. Like, I think it's crying, but it sounds like a dying cat. And it like dies down, and then she starts back up again, and then we hear and like every time she starts to speak, it happens again. And we finally just started breaking out laughing. It was just too much. It was just like, okay, forget it. Forget it. And you know what? I felt so much better as a mom because I felt like this is not me. This is these children.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
So,
You're
mom guilt.
It's real. It's real. It's real.
it's real, but it need not be, because I think I think you hit it on the head. Oftentimes we think about it, it's just like, okay, because I was like you, I would read to my kids as well, and then you start realizing, oh, they're not in the same place they used to be. We would sit down, eat for dinner,
Right.
read a book, and then it's just like, okay, now they're not there for dinner, they're doing other things. So what am I feeling guilty about? If I'm feeding them, clothing them, loving them, why do I feel guilt?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So much of the time, I think it's just our own expectations of
oh
ourselves.
yeah,
Right.
oh yeah, yeah. We
Right.
think we need to be perfect, and there's no such
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah.
There really isn't. So, um, and I want to say that your book gives, it is, like that reviewer, her title was, I wish I had this book when I had my 7. She had 7. I only had 3. And it probably would have helped me.
One's enough to push you over the edge.
Yes, Andrea only had 1. So it's just, regardless of whether it's 1 or 7, it's that type of advice, because, everyone's quick to give you, what to expect when you're expecting all these other books, but it's just like, okay,
Exactly.
you need to, yeah, you need to know, you can laugh at this stuff because kids are hilarious. They really are. So, and even, I have to say, I read through your book. My favorite chapter was when mom gets sick. Yeah. You started off, this is my best advice for moms: don't get sick. That's it. That's my only advice. And that is, obviously that chapter is a little shorter than the rest of them, but I think like that is like, I remember when I got strep throat and I had like a 8-year-old and a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. And I'm like, I can't stop. I still got to feed them dinner. I can't swallow. I can barely breathe, but hey, let me go do this.
Oh, yeah. That's what I think that chapter is like one paragraph long.
Yeah. So, a lot of what you offer is lived experience, and you get to part 3 and you start talking about the early days, and, and it's practical advice. It's not all, don't feel guilt. It is, okay, well, for morning sickness, do this, do that. So that leads to the empowerment part of your title, because knowledge is power, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I think that you're absolutely 100% right, because if you can see this mom says it's okay,
Yeah.
then it's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not, I don't have to follow this 3-step guide.
Hmm. Absolutely. And you quoted Proverbs 27:17. Iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another. And if what the words of our mouth can help someone else, then we readily need to share those words. So, and I think you've done um, a great job with that book, with that.
Mhm.
So, I wanted to talk about your book as a business and as a tool, and also your podcast, because when we talk about the writing journey, books are often tools for authors with projects or businesses or messages. How does your podcast and your book complement what all the things that we listed in your bio? All the things that you've done. How do they assist you if someone is out there? Someone who has a business idea, a project. How does the book, a podcast, any of that help?
Yeah. So, first of all, I think the podcast is kind of in the same vein. So, my kind of tagline I think of for that is like Jesus, women, real, fun.
Mhm.
And because like a lot of times I'll have people on here like we do, like we're doing now, where it's like moms that are getting together and we're talking about a certain topic. Because I think that hearing from other moms is so powerful. And also just the discussion quality of it, it makes it like you've got all these different ideas and all these different, viewpoints. And so it helps you formulate, okay, what will work for me?
Mhm.
And then I try to bring in guests that I really think will help people move the needle. So, I've actually got a few interviews with different people who have talked about like healing prayer or
Mhm.
types of like kind of emotional healing, because sometimes I think moms, everything else in life is being affected by some kind of thing that's keeping them stuck,
Right.
you know? And
Mhm.
so trying to give them some tools to help them, get through that. But then also, laughing about things and just bringing in, some silly stuff. Like and I've been actually putting out a lot of real short ones that are only 2 minutes long,
Mhm.
kind of a daily type thing, because moms don't have a lot of time. And sometimes you just need that quick hit, like motivation in the morning. Like one of them is called Have a Mastitis Free Day. uh, because I was just having a terrible day. And I got to thinking myself, okay, I have to like have something that I'm happy and grateful about. And I thought to
Yeah.
myself, I'm glad I don't have mastitis today because I've had it with two different kids.
I've had it
It's
once.
so horrible. And I
Mhm.
don't even know why that popped in my mind, but it was just like, if nothing else, you don't have mastitis today. So
Okay.
That is a good thing to celebrate. It really is. I've had
yes,
it once, and that was all I needed, and just one experience. So,
exactly,
oh,
exactly.
awesome. So, are you okay? Have you always been funny, or was this just something that came on with the kids?
Well, my family is funny.
Okay.
They're very sarcastic and they're very like to joke around, and it's kind of interesting like looking back now that I'm kind of reintroducing some of my older kids to like some of my aunts and uncles that they didn't get to see a lot before, but they're kind of seeing now at like family
Mhm.
functions and stuff. And it's like, oh yeah, Uncle David, he was the one that always, you know, let us play in the mud and took us on camping trips and made us throw a snake up in the top of the tree house. And like my mom was always the one at family parties. We would all of me and all the little cousins would steal everybody's shoes and we'd hide them in the closet, and then she would chase us around trying to find them. You know, and my uncle Larry was like, like even now, like he's always got a story, and he always loves talking to even my kids. Even though he's gotten to know them, even though we don't see them very much, like 4 hours away, and
Mhm.
and he's an adventurer. He's like sailed the Mediterranean and the coast of Africa, and
Oh, wow.
gone to Alaska and all these things. So, yeah, I think that we mentioned my Aunt Christy actually in the last episode, and she's so funny. She is a science teacher, and
Uh-huh.
during COVID, she's a fifth grade science teacher. And during COVID, while everyone was stuck at home, so all the kids, couldn't actually come in. Every day she would take the skeleton from her science room and pose it somewhere around the school, like eating lunch or with a baseball cap and the bat, or, picking up trash off the playground or whatever. And she would send these pictures out to the kids.
Oh, that's great. That is great. Okay, so you get it honestly. That's good. That is great. So, Elaine, I'm gonna hand you over to Andrea. Your turn.
Elaine, one thing, not just one thing, but I just love the fact that you are who you are. And I think that when we get into mom guilt and talk about things like that, we have this PhD idea, of what parenting should be about and what you should do as a mom. And that only feeds the guilt that's already superimposed. I mean, we do that on our own enough, but to be able to have created something like you have with the book that allows me to sit back as a mom and just say, you know what, this is not unusual. This happens to people all the time, people just like me, and that is a good thing, and it's not so tough, and lightning's not going to strike me if I do things, and I'm going to be okay. And guess what? So are the kids. They're going to
So
be
are the kids.
just fine. They're going to be just fine. I wanted to ask you something that is not necessarily addressed in the book per se, but because I think that you are the best expert out there in terms of how to raise your kids so nobody goes crazy and everybody's good at the end of the day. The world has changed so much, and when I hear you talk about your kids, you you just can't. I don't care how hard you try, you just can't raise them the same.
Mhm.
Yeah.
As things change and as the world around us changes, there are things in general that may have been important 5 years ago that just don't carry the same emphasis that it does now. Listening to, having to change the trend of reading, that Christmas story, which at the time, without the cell phone and without all the electronics, that was a great thing to do. Let's pop some popcorn, sit here and do that. But now, not so much. You gotta change the way that you do that. I had a program on recently, and the topic of it was train up a child, and we were talking on that show about what is it that is most important now, uh, in terms of training your kids. What seeds are you planting? What do you think are the most important things to tell them? Long time ago, the seed was, you're seen and not heard. That was the seed.
Mhm.
Or different things like that. And now, because of so much about people who have grown and not felt that they matter or not have value or worth and those kinds of things. What do you think are some of the most important things uh, to have in that, mom arsenal of training that we do to raise some healthy, well-balanced human beings? What do you think are some of the important things now?
Well, I think one of the things that's totally different with my 11-year-old than everyone else is just this cultural backlash or this cultural shift, maybe I should say. And I am having to talk to him literally almost every day about something that is he hears on the radio, sees on a cartoon, um, uh, gosh, all kinds of places, the library, doctor's offices. I
Right.
mean, it's just mind-boggling. And at first I was just like so angry about it, and now I've sort of just accepted that and not that I'm not angry about it, but I've accepted that as a parent, I can't change everything around him. So I'm gonna have to just have these conversations with him,
Right.
like constantly, movies that we watch, and all that. And I think that has been good. In some ways, I don't know. There's a fine line because, like you're saying, the older ones, they get raised different from the younger ones. Ours, in some ways, were even more because the older ones were totally homeschooled, like at
Okay.
his age,
Mhm.
and I didn't work.
Mhm.
And now I work, and now he's, in school,
Mhm.
and so it really is like a totally different culture shift.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to let that go. I had to let go that it's not going to be the same, and that's okay. And it took me a while. Like God had to literally like shake me and be like, Elaine, he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, because I was just so concerned, and so worried and had that mom guilt about it, and just even a sadness, kind of a grief about it personally, but then on the other hand, there was things that my older kids have come back and said, I wish you'd have talked about this cultural thing more with us, because we were kind of sheltered a little bit. I mean, they weren't like home all the time. Like we were super involved, as you know, we had a homeschool co-op too, so it wasn't like they were like totally away from people, but it is different being in the homeschool community and being at home a lot versus having cell phones and being out in school, and just being like more inundated with YouTube and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So I think that is really the biggest thing to me, is just having the conversations. And then also, this is such a hard decision. I have a whole chapter in the book devoted to homeschooling versus public schooling versus private schooling, and how you should pick what works best for you and your family.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a hard decision because you're, as a parent, you're just like, well, what if I choose wrong, And
Yeah.
and I can tell. I mean, I can literally say, looking back, because we've had everything, right? Because we had kids that were homeschooled and then went to public school in high school. We had one that homeschooled all the way through. We had the younger ones that they're actually in a private Christian school. So, like we've kind of done the whole gamut. And I can look back and say, this kid, I wish I'd have put them in public high school. They needed that kind of exposure. And then I think of this other kid and I'm like, we put her in public high school and now I'm worried,
Right.
but then with the younger kids, they're in a private school, and I really like that because it's kind of the best of both worlds, I feel like, because they get like a lot more of that exposure, but at the same time, at least if not the kids, at least the faculty, I feel good that they're talking about everything's kind of couched in Jesus.
Right.
So I think that's really good. But, I have a high schooler that's in private school, and I often think, well, should we move him over to the public school? It's just such a tough kind of touch. Every year is a new decision, right?
Mhm.
But I do feel good about them being there because, again, I feel like at least they're getting chapel once a week, and they're getting this kind of,
Right.
soaking, I guess, in the word. And, what they do with that in their life is their decision. I can't make that decision for them. But I think that is a good thing.
Mhm. I think that one of the other things that I like about your book is the fact that you have a way of bringing things to the forefront that are everyday things, that are everyday challenges, that are everyday successes, and it's just open. It is just so open and so inviting of conversation and feedback, from people. And sometimes you kind of average reading some of the parts, especially about get help, which I think ought to be, somewhere in marble or something over a grand place. Because I think that's where we all, whether you're mom of six
Yeah.
and mom of one, or have no children at all, it's
Yeah, for
still
sure.
something. Those two words are just two powerful words. Get help. And I looked at the things that you had listed in there, and if you can, just name a couple of them. But I thought about them, and I thought, why didn't I think of that when I was raising my kids? Why, it's not the rocket science of it all. It's just so practical. But talk about just a couple of those things in that section about get help.
Yeah, so I think you're referring to like when you have a baby mainly. It is that's the chapter that where I really focus in on that because as Americans we're just like, we can do it all and we're gonna pop this baby out and it's gonna be great and no problems and having a newborn is just like it's like getting hit by a hurricane. I mean, it doesn't really matter how many kids you have either.
Mm-mm.
I
Right.
mean, the first one, I was like, why? I literally remember sitting at the hospital thinking, this doctor is going to let me take this baby home? Like, I don't know anything about babies. I didn't even babysit. I didn't have any younger siblings. I didn't have any younger cousins. I don't know any. So he gets 8 years of education, and what do I get? Well, here you go. And they just think everything's going to be fine and dandy. I remember going home and I was sitting in my bedroom with my sister and I was trying to breastfeed this child. And of course, you're thinking, like, their whole dependence is on the fact that I can figure out how to feed him my boob. I mean, like, I don't even know how to do this. And my husband comes in and he says, well, Jimmy says, that was my brother-in-law. Jimmy says that if you use night lights, they'll be nearsighted. And I had a night light in so that I could see, when I was breastfeeding at night. And he came in and pulled the night light out and set it on the dresser. And I just started sobbing, well, he walked out. He didn't see that. But I was just like, no, not the night light. And my sister was like, girl, I got you. And she takes the night light and plugs it back in. And she's like, just ignored him. But yeah, I mean, if my sister hadn't been there, I mean, that how would it have been? And I had actually one of the kids I had my husband's aunt came and she had 5 kids and she was like amazing. She cooked, she cleaned, she took them outside and played baseball, she did fun games, like it was awesome.
Can you stay?
I know, right? And then with the next one, that was the 4th kid. With the 5th kid, I had all this help lined up. I was like, I'm gonna have people bring meals, and I'm gonna have friends come and help clean, and my dad's gonna come up. The aunt couldn't come up, unfortunately, but and then I'm gonna put stuff in the freezer and all these things. It all fell through. The gal that did the meals for church, her dad had a heart attack, and she couldn't do it, obviously. My friends got sick. My dad couldn't come up. It was bad. It was so, so bad. And with my 5th child, my oldest, I had 4 other children, and the oldest was 7. Yeah. It was bad. And that's where I talk in the book, a little bit about postpartum depression and, how important it is to get help with that. And I did. It was rough.
Oh, yeah.
It was really rough.
Yeah.
Parenthood
is not for the faint of heart. Parenthood is not for the faint of heart anyway.
Yeah.
So, wow.
I ended up, I was literally losing my mind. And I went downstairs to talk to my husband finally at some point. And he just couldn't understand. I mean, he was really kind. But like in his logical mind, he was thinking everything's okay. Like the kids are okay. Like you don't have to like watch them 24 hours a day. Like they're all just running around playing, like it's okay if you don't clean the house. Like we can order pizza. You know what I mean? Like he was in his logical mind saying what totally made sense. But when you're like postpartum, you are not thinking logically. And I was just in my mind thinking, I am drowning and I need help now.
Right.
And so I called my midwife and I just kind of spilled my guts and she just talked me through it and kind of got to the root of like, well, what do you really, really, really need help with? And I said, you know what? If I could just have somebody come clean the house, I would feel so much better. And so I walked across the street because my neighbor is a house cleaner. And I hired her. I didn't tell my husband. And I tell you what was the best thing I ever did. Because it was crazy. Now, I'm not saying that everybody has this experience or that you don't need to go to your doctor or anything like that. But for me, it was just enough to like pull me out of the doldrums. I just needed to know someone was there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, I needed to walk into the house once a week and see it be totally cleaned, and it could like go to hell in a handbasket for the rest of the time. But I just
That's
needed
what you
that.
needed. You
Yeah.
got what you needed.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's
Love
good.
that.
That is good. Victoria, I'm going to go over to you now because I have some other things for Elaine, but we're
There's
running
no time for me.
short
We
of
got
time.
time now. Y'all see the time? We got to go. But I just wanted to, I'm just happy to listen because I enjoyed the book. I still enjoy the book. And thank you for writing it. And I told you this the last time. I wish I had that book when I had mine and I had 3 and you doubled that with 6. Everybody out there, get the book. Tell our listeners and our viewers where they can get your book.
You can go to imaginemom.com. That's with an E at the beginning instead of an I. So instead of imagine with an I, it's imagine with an E.
Yeah.
Imaginemom.com and click on book. Or you can go to Amazon. Like either one of those is going to take you to Amazon, but sometimes it's a little easier to find it through the book link. So
Right.
definitely, yeah, pick it up there.
Well, and thank you so much for writing such a book and for putting your heart into it. You give real stories, you give practical advice, and it's coming from a real place. It's not clinical at all. It just makes you feel good. And I feel even though my kids are grown, older now too, it's just a feel good read. It makes me know that I wasn't crazy and I'm still not crazy. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much, gals. It's awesome.
Of course.
Elaine, you are one of our favorite guests, and I guess I shouldn't have said that.
I'll take it.
We won't tell anybody who said it.
We enjoy it so much when you come on because, like Victoria said, it's practical, it's simple, it is so impactful though.
Yeah.
And so many good things in there that are helpful. Like I said, whether you don't, even if you don't have children, I read books about relationships all the time because it helps me on every level. I mean, there's some things, guilt is a real thing, whether it's mom guilt, my guilt, whatever, and they're just things
Right.
there that can help you through so many things in life. So thank you so much, not just for writing the book, but for coming back and sharing more about this book with the rest of us. So we thank you for that. And we thank Jamaica for coming in as well. I can't always remember the name. Love Demonstration Church in Jamaica. They join us a lot on Sunday evening. So we thank them for coming. Thank all of our listeners who are on, those who hear us on the podcast and all the other social media platforms where you catch Authors Up. We thank you all for being here. Elaine, do you have one last bit of advice?
I have one really quick story for you.
Oh, good.
Okay.
One day I was sitting on the couch and our couch faces the front door and we have one of those storm doors that are glass,
Yeah.
And my little 3-year-old was out there. So I was like kind of watching him from the couch and he was just, I don't even know what he was doing. But all of a sudden I look up and I see him and I see our neighbor, Nancy, who is probably about 65 years old, walking the dog right in front of our house. And at that exact moment, he decides to pull his pants down and go pee. And while he's peeing, he's just standing there waving at her. Hi, Nancy. Hi. And I was on the couch. It all happened so fast. There was nothing I could do about it. I just melted down into the couch and thought, well, I'm glad he's a friendly little guy. And that is just life with kids, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is it.
And so it is. So it is. Elaine, you are so delightful. Thank you. Thank you again for all the wisdom and all the great stories.
Yeah, and don't forget to go to the podcast Imagine
Imagine.
Momcast. Imagine Momcast. Yeah.
Yes.
Imagine Momcast. We got it. We got it down. Well, that's it for us for tonight, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Get the book as
Get the book.
There's great nuggets in there, and you don't want to miss an opportunity for normalcy. That's what I think, it brings you a sense of normalcy.
Exactly.
So we appreciate you, Elaine. We appreciate you, listeners. And guess what? We will be right back here next week at 7 p.m. We've got some returning guests next week too, and you don't want to miss them as well. So they've got some great nuggets to share with us also. So Ruth and Victoria, good night, ladies. Elaine, love
Good
you.
night.
Thank you so much.
Good
And
night, everybody. Good night,
next
girl. Mwah, mwah.
join us right here for Authors Up. You never know what's going to happen, but we'll be right here 7 p.m. next Sunday. God bless everybody. Have a great week.